Alright, this is Chat UCD and my preview of the Everton game tomorrow night, Monday night, at their new stadium, our first trip to their new stadium, where they don't have a particularly great record. They're having that issue that a lot of clubs have when they move to particularly like that modern sort of stadium and you're used to an old-fashioned stadium, bit of time to settle in, bit of time to adapt. Certainly not the same atmosphere that there was at Goodison Park, which might play into our hands a little bit. It was always a tough place to go, Goodison Park. There's the Merseyside Manchester thing. They always were really up for it, and it always felt quite tight, quite close to the ground, and they really sort of used that as a 12th man. I've been to Goodison Park numerous times, and geez, I remember 30 years ago, in the away end at least, it looked like it was falling apart. So it certainly had its old-fashioned charm. Let's put it that way. And this will be a very different kettle of fish going to their new stadium. As I say, I think that's probably at the moment an advantage for us. But it'll be a tough game. They beat us last time out with 10 men. They played for the pretty much entirety of the game with 10 men. I was there. It was a pitiful effort from United, really, and I think it showcased what Everton are at their best, which is if they get a goal, they sit tight and have some decent players on the counter attack. And David Moyes has made a career out of getting teams to be very difficult to break down, and play the percentages really going forward. Look for knockdowns, get balls in the box. It's not rocket science stuff. It's probably why it didn't really work for him at United. It wasn't sophisticated enough, without wanting to sound snobby, but it wasn't sophisticated enough for what we needed. But at the level that Everton are at, you can see they can achieve relatively decent success, and they're 8 points behind us. So if they were to beat us, obviously that becomes 5, and they might think they can start reeling some teams in. So I think it's a big game for them. It's a massive game for us. And as I say, a test and another test against a team that the likes of which we struggle against. We struggled to break West Ham down. We got a point, which, as I said at the time, it's a decent point. But when you've had a bit of a setback, which I think that was, the next game is always very, very important. Can you arrest any negative momentum you would have got from that draw? And if you win this game, it shuts down any negative momentum, because Everton's a tough place to go, regardless of the new stadium. They're a good team, and they do sit tight. It's particularly important. It's every weekend's important actually, but it's particularly interesting, should I say, that Chelsea dropped points at home yesterday, so they are technically above us. But if we get a point, we go back above them. Villa dropped points again, so they're only 6 points clear of us now. And tomorrow's our game in hand. If we win our game in hand, we go 3 points behind them, and we play them in the not too distant future at Old Trafford, which opens up another place for us. Liverpool play Forest away this afternoon. Forest got a new manager. Maybe that could play its part in that game. So yeah, definitely a chance for United, if they get 3 points, to really clarify and confirm a solid position within those Champions League places. And I often say United's mantra seems to be, why go for exceptional when acceptable will do? And it would be a point would be acceptable. There's no disgrace in getting a point at Everton, but it'd be great for us to go and do something different, to go and win the game. And as I say, 5 wins out of 6, then you really do solidify your place in that top Champions League positions, and maybe even third becomes a very real option then. There's calls amongst the fan base for Seshko to start, the logic being that when we play against a low block, which Everton essentially will probably be as well, just like West Ham were, that you need to do something a bit different. You can't just pass around the low block. You need an aerial threat. The issue is, it's not just a one-size-fits-all. Everton's strength is, if they play in a low block, but is it Keane and Tarkowski, I think, are their 2 centre-backs. Balls just lumped into the box and meat and drink to them. It's what they live for. It's like Harry Maguire for us. And if Šeško was this monster who dominated people in the air, which maybe at some point he'll develop into, but I don't see him as being now, then I can see the benefit of having him in there bullying the likes of Tarkowski and Keane. But 2 versus 1, he's not dominant for his size in the air. I just think that'd be a fruitless exercise. The other thing being, even when he came on against West Ham, you'd have thought 1-0 down, we're going to start doing things differently. We're going to start playing balls into the air to play to his strengths. And for whatever reason, the team didn't do that. Maybe they don't think he's good enough to utilise balls in the air. Maybe they're just not used to doing it, in which case that can be coached into you. That can just be suggested. It's not difficult to suggest to a wide player to get the ball in the air. You've got a 6'5" striker. But we didn't do it. And in the end, the goal came from a ball crossed in along the floor. I actually think that against the likes of Everton, having a more fluid system up front where you've got 3 who can interchange like Cunha and Burmo and Ahmad, I think that's more likely to lead to us breaking them down. When you consider, again, it's Tarkowski and Keane, they'll pack their box. It'll be difficult to find pockets of space. But when you've got the likes of Cunha, who can get it out of his feet from 25 yards, ping one in to the top corner because he's got that ability. Ahmad's got that ability. Bruno's in the team, has got that ability. From set pieces, Casemiro's there. We're not going to get in behind them very often, but I think we're probably more likely to get a piece of magic from one of those 3. The other thing with the low block, and this brings us to a wider point, if you're going to use crosses into the box to beat a low block, your centre forward has to be an absolute monster, which Šeško isn't. But secondly, the quality of the fullbacks has to be better. The quality of the crosses coming in from the fullbacks has to be better. And down the years, Luke Shaw's delivery's been very good when he's been fit, but of late it hasn't been. Hits the first man too often. At times it just looks a bit speculative. It's not put into an area rather than into anybody specific. Dalot's just very, very hit and miss in terms of his quality. And they're 2 areas of great need, I think, for United this summer. It goes back to something I've said before. We needed at least one midfielder last summer. We didn't get it, which means you kick the can down the road to not even January, to next summer. So we've played with a deficit basically for a year by the time the summer comes around and summer of 2026 comes around. It's a World Cup summer. We are now desperate for midfielders, plus the fact Casemiro is going to go. So you could argue you need 3. I don't even think we'll get 2. But that's the area of great need. That's what all the likes of the Athletic and the Telegraph and the Independent, all the journos from those types of outlets are saying, yeah, United are going to do a massive midfield overhaul this summer. Well, first of all, it won't be as massive as we think it will be. And secondly, all right, yeah, but that needs to be done last year, and now a new need has emerged. The fullbacks are a big, big need at United. If you want to kick on, if you want to be really successful. What did Guardiola do in his not his first summer, his second summer? He came in, he assessed what he had, he made some signings, and they finished, I think, 4th. And they were not great that season. In the summer after that, the first signings he got 4 fullbacks. He knew he needed 2 for each side, and it transformed the way they played. And that's 10 years ago, but fullbacks are a massive part of the modern game. Especially when you play with a narrow 3, as we tend to do. Your width then comes from your fullbacks. And the delivery has to be spot on. So really, yeah, we need 2 or 3 midfield players, but we need a left back and a right back. So tomorrow, going back to that, if we're going to use Šeško, we've got Dalot and Shaw, they need to be on it. Their decision making needs to be spot on. And the quality of their crosses and the quality of their play needs to be spot on as well. And maybe they'll have a night where that happens, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced by them at all. So a big test, and hopefully one that we can overcome and give us that positive momentum back, and as I say, solidify our place right in the top 5, and keep getting points which move us further away from being out of the European positions. Just a quick overview of other stuff that's been going on, because I've not done a video for a little while with us not having a game. Probably the biggest thing that's happened is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe made some comments about immigration which have not gone down very well. There's been a lot of analysis of it. Pragmatic people who previously would never say anything about Ineos or the Glazers have sort of condemned what he said, and the fact he's brought politics into blurring the lines of being an owner at Man United. Obviously not okay. The FA, excuse me, are not going to charge him with bringing the game into disrepute, but they were thinking about it. The Glazers, by all accounts, are, inverted commas, horrified about it. Sponsors are not happy. Read somewhere that United are already struggling a bit with sponsors, which for me, is someone who wants the Glazers gone, I think that's good, that we're struggling for sponsors, and that this is not going to help that matter. So my thought earlier in last week was, to use an analogy, if I felt before any of this happened, the door for Ineos to leave, Ineos and the Glazers to leave, was just firmly closed. That's just not going to happen. When I saw this, I thought there's a slither of light. The door is ever so slightly ajar, but for us to push that door further open and walk through it, there's so many ifs, buts, and maybes that probably are just not going to happen. So I'm going to do a video on that, on the ownership, on what's likely to happen, on the possibility of maybe them being forced out. But the possibility of them being forced out is based on a number of ifs that I just don't think will happen, including how the fan base would need to be wholly united together, both in wanting to get them out, but getting behind any prospective bid from a potential hostile takeover. And I just don't think those things will happen. I'm also in that video going to talk about the stadium, because I haven't spoken about it for a while, and is it likely to happen? I've done a bit of number crunching, which I'm going to bring in as well, and just look at if it's as straightforward as it seems to be being made out to be, and the Andy Burnham comments about what Sir Jim Ratcliffe said, but also quite tellingly about the Glazers. He never said their name explicitly, but he clearly was talking about them when he said, Jim, we really need to be looking closer to home at a group of people who don't reside in this country, who don't put a penny in to the economy here, and have siphoned out millions, even billions, from one of our proudest institutions. He's clearly talking about the Glazers. Interesting words from a man that is supposedly involved in helping the Glazers and Ineos with the regeneration project and the new stadium. That said, Andy Burnham's a Scouser. Never trust a Scouser, and I'm sure if he greases palms sufficiently, all of this goes away. But maybe for someone like me who desperately wants the the ownership change, regime change, maybe that door is so slightly ajar. But I actually think, as it comes around to game day, excuse me, I can feel that slither of light just getting smaller and smaller, and the door's just going to close again. It all goes quiet. So, as I say, I'll do a video on that, and I probably will do a video next week on what we need from a manager moving forward, longer term. Look at the managers we've chosen previously as well, because that's something I've been wanting to do for a while. And also, of course, the post-match reaction to the game against Everton tomorrow night as well, if it's not too late. Right, that's me for now. I will catch you soon. All the best. Glazers out.